Today is Sunday, March 12, 2023, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. It was another busy week in Detroit and Michigan, but in particular, let's zoom in on Wednesday and Wednesday night. It was like sitting in a straightaway at the Detroit Grand Prix, watching the bills whizzing by, and Democrats were doing the driving. First, lawmakers voted to expand the protections of the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to gay and transgender Michiganders. Also, the House got busy on that trio of gun bills that we've talked about: background checks, red flag laws, and safe storage provisions. While Democrats in the Senate were getting rid of the state's 1931 anti-abortion law, and then the House followed suit on that too. But wait, there's more. After some very testy committee hearings, the House voted to repeal Michigan's status as a right-to-work state. First time in 60 years a state's done that. In the same breath, they reinstated prevailing wage in Michigan. Tricky moment ahead, perhaps, for the governor, because these bills were passed with provisions that make them referendum-proof, a tactic that Governor Whitmer promised to veto back when Republicans were in charge of the legislature. But a bigger question, living as we do in the middle of what Mayor Duggan referred to in his State of the City address as hand-to-hand state combat, is what does right to work really mean in the cutthroat world of jobs and economic development? We're going to talk about all that this morning. And on the heels of a lot of economic news this past week, we'll again turn to U of M economist Justin Wolfers. Is the fight to control inflation pushing us ever closer to a recession? All today on Flashpoint. Well, what a weekend, Lansing. Plenty for us to sink our teeth into. So let's start with my trough mates at the round table today. The political editor of the Detroit News, Chad Livengood, is back with us, as is the CEO of Focus Hope and the head of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission, Portia Roberson. Brian Calley is, of course, the former lieutenant governor of Michigan, now the president and CEO of the Small Business Association, and the new editorial page editor of the Detroit Free Press in a landmark appointment, Nancy Kaffer. Congratulations, Nancy, and great to have you here. Let me start with you. I could not keep up with everything that was coming out of Lansing on Wednesday, from abortion to Elliott Larson, prevailing wage, right to work, on and on and on, gun measures. Which did you think was there one that was more consequential than the others?
I think you have to actually consider them as a constellation. You know, none of this is a surprise. Democrats have been saying for years what they would do if they had a majority. They have a majority, you know, and they're doing it. You know, as we say in Alabama, dance with the one who brung you. Yeah. And that's what's happening here. You know, I think of these, personally, I think the 1931 abortion ban repeal is it's symbolic, but it is consequential. You know, we all thought that law was irrelevant for a long time until suddenly it wasn't. Suddenly it was in very real, this near total ban on abortion in almost every circumstance, prescribing jail time for doctors and nurses who performed abortions, was very close to becoming a reality here. And get that thing off the books as fast as possible is
Voters made their position on that one fairly clear.
Very
Brian,
clear.
is this just sort of the old elections have consequences, or was there anything here that particularly troubled you this past week?
Well, certainly elections do have consequences. Yeah. The policies, the economic policies that pass through and are likely to make it to the governor's desk, I think, are the ones that are most consequential. It wasn't just right to work or prevailing wage, but there are several policy changes that happened about 10 years ago that set Michigan on a different type of path than it was on previously. Look at the decade before and the decade after, stark contrast.
You were a part of the previous administration that put some of these into place. You may feel personally aggrieved in some of this, right?
Well, here's the thing, though. Elections, states move on, governments move on, people go in and out of office, policies change. So from that standpoint, there's certainly nothing personal about it. Really, what it comes down to, and from my own interest now, is just about the economy. Small businesses literally are, people always say they're the backbone of the economy, but here's the thing, it's actually true. And yet, policymakers tend to pay a lot of lip service, but focused on the big companies.
Well, I want us to focus in particular then on some of those in a minute. Before we do that, let me let you both weigh in on what you thought was the biggest thing that came out of the week so far.
Well, I thought the expansion of Elliott Larson was huge. And I say that because we've heard the governor say bigotry is bad for business. I think when you look at small businesses, when you look at large corporations, we want to have a state that is inclusive of everyone. And so this was a big push to say, come to Michigan, do your job here because this is a place where you can bring your whole self to this state. And so I thought it was a big deal, and I'm really happy to see it pass.
Yeah. Chad, how about you?
We've had protections on the books for 40 years in the state that says you can't discriminate against someone based on their age, their race, their weight, their religion. But we have not protected if you are gay, if you are transgender. And that's what this new law will do. And this is a pretty monumental step forward for the state, especially when you look at nationally, there are a lot of anti-LGBT laws being introduced in other states and legislatures. Yeah. There's been some tracking. There's more just to date in 2 months than there were in the previous terms of state legislatures. So this is a pretty big message to the outside world.
I want us to dial in a little bit on some of these economic issues that Brian was just referring to. Interesting, this past week we also had Mayor Duggan's State of the City address on Tuesday night. He spent a long time going to great effort to explain why, for instance, we use tax abatements and what it takes to try to attract business. The next day, I asked him about what the debate over right to work would do to his work on that effort, and this is what he said.
I don't think it had an effect one way or another. I don't think when they repealed it, it made a difference. Think about who we landed. We landed Jeep plant with 4,000 jobs. They're UAW. Mm-hmm. We got GM to reopen, 2,000 jobs. They're UAW. We got Lear to put in 500 jobs at the seating plant. They're union members, so it won't have an effect.
So you think it doesn't matter whether we're right to work or not, one way or the other?
I don't think the economy got any better when it got repealed. I don't know whether it's going to change, but I'm not afraid of right to work being repealed.
Nancy, I think back to that original argument, debate that we had over whether or not we should be a right-to-work state. One side said that this was going to answer so many problems for us in attracting business. The other side felt it was going to be disaster for workers. It ends up being neither, doesn't it?
You know, I'm from Alabama, which has been a right-to-work state for a long time. And there's no big secret that car companies were relocating to the South, to non-union states.
Big Mercedes plant in Alabama.
And it's no secret that they were moving business there because they could pay workers lower wages. Mm-hmm. So when you have unions in a state, there's this residual effect for everyone. Wages are higher, workers ask for more. It spills over to union and non-union workers. And people here like to dunk on Alabama, where I'm from, a lot. But so why do we want policies that put us closer to being Alabama or Mississippi or one of those states that has a lower median wage, a lower quality of life, and very less regulation?
Brian Kelly, take a whack.
Well, the reason is because we need more people. And if you look at the U.S. Census Bureau numbers since the pandemic, for example, just at where people have moved, you'll see 867,000 people moved from non-right-to-work states to right-to-work states. If you look at Michigan, right-to-work, you got 9 years' worth of data, you see that our population is up 130,000 since then. The 9 years before, down 120,000. So people vote with their feet. And while, it's true that there's legacy issues about educational attainment and histories that right to work can't solve for all that. Yeah. But when you look at where there's just opportunity and growth, it tends to be in the right to work states.
Portia, is that persuasive?
I mean, I guess there is some persuasion around whether or not people are moving back and forth. But I would say that after the pandemic, one of the things we've seen is people starting to once again consider where they want to live. And I think we're going to see that wave sort of shift back because it's a protection for workers. And I think when we talk about things like Elliott Larson, when we talk about freedom to, the unions being back in business, it allows people to make a choice about whether they're going to be protected in their employment. I think that's so important. I think when people are considering, again, where do they want to live? Where do they want to raise their families? I mean, I have parents who moved here because they knew it would provide for a better life. My dad started off working at Ford's, right? And one of the things as an African American that we knew was that the unions were there to protect African American workers as much as they were for other workers, rural workers and the like. So I think anytime we have unions represented in the workforce, we're going to be better off.
Although the UAW in particular hasn't had a particularly illustrious run here over the last couple of years. Chad, if you agree with the mayor and that all of this debate is overrated, what I'm not sure is overrated is the debate itself, which would show the rest of the country that we're still a state where labor and business doesn't get along all that well.
I mean, there's still definitely that perception nationally, but look at in the 10 years, how many foreign automakers have we attracted to build an assembly plant in Michigan? Zero. We're only up one actual domestic automaker, the Jeep plant, which was basically two engine plants fused together. So we're barely up one new assembly plant for Ford. Their new assembly plant being built in Tennessee. They built 3 battery plants in Tennessee and Kentucky. GM building a battery plant in Ohio and Tennessee. Yes, they're building one in Lansing, and that's going to make sure that Lansing still produces electric vehicles in the future. Otherwise, we would lose vehicles assembled in Lansing. And this last play, where this week, when the governor signed an appropriations bill, $630 million going to pay for all the roll out the red carpet for Ford to keep a battery plant in Marshall. Now, contrast that with what is the actual immediate tax relief in the tax relief legislation. Most voters will not see that kind of money for a couple years in this tax bill that was passed by this week. So you got two competing problems going on. We're out trying to buy jobs, and people are looking for some kind of relief in their wallet.
Anybody?
I think we have another problem, which is that we haven't invested in the things. We talk about things that draw people to the state and make business want to site here. We're finally starting to put significant money into our schools. We've disinvested in our schools. We've disinvested in our infrastructure. And under the previous gubernatorial administration, we shifted tax burden from businesses to individuals. And those things, because you can attract businesses, you can attract people. Businesses site where people want to be. If you look at the Amazon second headquarters process, where we kind of threw everything at the wall in terms of tax incentives, and Amazon decided to go initially to 2 places, New York and Virginia, which are already offer significantly smaller incentives, are already very desirable places to live. So I think if we really want to do something meaningful to get business and people here, continue investing in education. Fix the roads, fix our water systems, do the things that make people like living here.
But I would point out, to make those investments, you have to have a growing economy. You have to have revenue streams into state government that allow for those investments. In 2011, the state had to balance an entire budget on $46 billion. And the biggest problem they had was not enough jobs. We had more people than jobs at that time. Now, if you fast forward into the future, there's way more jobs than people, and huge growth in the amount that can be invested in government throughout the entire Snyder administration and throughout the Whitmer administration. That increase in government revenue has continued, but it really had to start with a growing economy. If you don't have that in the first place, you really don't have anything.
Which portion, we talked about this the other night after the mayor's address. This is one of the things that's tricky about figuring this out. A lot of this feels like it's happening in a very fleeting parallel universe against the pandemic, against one-time money, against these things that may not.
Yeah, the crux is going to be, is it sustainable for the long haul? Are we going to see this be able to be continued? And so we can make big announcements right now, but it's going to, we're going to have to figure out if we can do this 5 and 10 years from now. I think education is key. We got to continue to make that investment in education. That's one of the key factors in where people want to live, is do we have an educational system that works? And so, I'm always happy to see more money coming into the state in whatever capacity is necessary. And I think we, need to use it in a way that we can sustain it throughout the long term.
One other thing that's really interesting to watch here, Chad, as we record this conversation, I don't believe the governor's weighed in on this issue yet, but the legislature stacked in these provisions that made right to work and prevailing wage referendum proof, which the governor told us back when there were Republicans in charge of the Capitol, she would veto any of those kind of measures.
Yeah, and she actually did veto a bill early in her term that had an appropriation, very innocuous type of policy issue. She has this stance. As Senator Whitmer, you can go back and find lots of floor speeches. We have the receipts, and she's opposed to it. She says it's trampling on the Constitution and whatnot. And now they've baked a $1 million appropriation into this bill in order to make it immune from voter referendum, which the legislature did in 2012 after voters of this state repealed the emergency manager law, which then they just turn around and pass a new one. So with an appropriation.
Going to be fascinating, because we would expect this week she'll have some things heading to her desk. So yeah, gang, thanks so much for a terrific conversation, all that and more. When we come back, U of M economist Justin Wolfers, a lot of economic news this past week. Are we again headed toward a recession? This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
right now. Save more on Tempur-Pedic at Gardner White. You can sleep on it tonight because Tempur-Pedic is guaranteed in stock with free same-day delivery. Plus, get the lowest payments ever with 0% financing for 88 months at just $23 a month. Plus, free 50-inch TVs, free $300 MasterCards. Save more at Gardner White, your Tempur-Pedic elite dealer.
For adventure, for climbing, for splashing, for towing, for premium, for capable. The GMC AT4 lineup, premium and capable. That's professional grade from GMC. Or GM employee program participants with a current eligible GMC lease can get this low mileage lease on this 2023 GMC Sierra Elevation for $299 per month.
At Comer & Cross, our expert team will transform your basement, garage, or commercial floor in as little as one day, giving it the finish you've always wanted. Our team makes it easy by helping move contents and other heavy items. Our polyaspartic coatings are 4 times stronger than traditional epoxy, non-toxic, environmentally friendly, and come with a 15-year warranty. Coating can be applied in any temperature and driven on in 24 hours. Your new floor will withstand the elements and make cleanup simple and easy. Call Comer & Cross Concrete Coatings today.
In order to deal with the problems of today, we must be more innovative.
There's obviously better solutions out there that we need to start exploring.
Rents are going up and up and up and up.
Our great Florida reef is under attack.
When great value is out, it's a problem.
Solutionaries, the creative thinkers and doers working to make the world a better place. Subscribe at youtube.com/solutionaries.
All right, welcome back. There was a flood of economic news this past week, starting with comments from the chairman of the Fed and ending with the latest jobs report and debt ceiling threats from a group of lawmakers. My favorite interpreter of these matters, of course, is the U of M economist, professor of public policy and economics at U of M, Justin Wolfers. Justin, really good to have you back on the program. Let's eat this whale one bite at a time. First, those earlier comments from Jerome Powell told us that not only are rate cuts not coming, but more rate increases are on the way. The markets reacted predictably. How did you react?
Not too surprised, a little disappointed because I'd like to see rates not rise too far. I'd like to give the economy a chance to see how far it's got to run, but I definitely understand Chairman Powell's concerns. We had some revised inflationary data. It's a bit down in the weeds, but basically the recent past turns out to have not been as good as we thought or hoped it was. And given that, the case for slowing the rate at which we were raising rates is quite a bit weaker, and I think Powell is just trying to signal that so that no one gets taken by surprise. Well,
and then you zoom ahead to the jobs report that came out on Friday. It was not as robust as January's jobs report, but still showing an economy that's really perking along. Unemployment at 3.6%, no matter how you feel about those, about the way that those numbers are compiled. But it suggests an economy still running really hot.
You know, my summary is what a little ripper. You know, last month was extraordinary, so that we weren't extraordinary 2 months in a row, we were merely very good. This is the sort of rate of job growth that maybe we've gotten a bit used to over the past couple of years, but in any other year we would have said, wowza, this is really something. And we've got unemployment ticked up a little bit to 3.6 from 3.4%, but realise it's, whichever way you look at it, we're within spitting distance of being at the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. So I kind of like an economy in which unemployment's low and inflation is falling. Now, if we can get inflation the rest of the way down, that'll be even better.
How do you, I sort of gave a cynical aside there on the employment numbers. How do you feel about the way we compile those? Because it seems to me and many others that unemployment and people dropping out of the labor market entirely are really, really undermeasured.
That's always been a big issue. And so it's always hard to make sure that we count all of those who that we're leaving behind. And I think it's an important point to make. But that's one of the reasons I always make sure to compare what's happening today to what's happening with the equivalent measure in the past, because those same issues are as relevant today as they were in the past. So I agree with you that more than, say, 3 or 4% of our population is struggling to find work.
Yeah.
But what's also true is there's a lower share of our population struggling to find work today than or virtually any point over recent decades.
Yeah. You, for a long time now, have been one of those economists urging people to pump the brakes on just assuming that a recession is coming. Where are you on it now, given the week that was and overall where we've been so far in 2023?
Mate, it's nice of you to bring that up to say, yes, Justin, you've been right every month for 18 months in a row. Thank you for reassuring our viewers that during a booming economy when every other pundit was saying recession, there hasn't been one. And look, there's not one right now. I'm not promising anyone that there won't be one in the future, because every year all sorts of things could happen. But what I can tell you is the economy right now is really pretty healthy. A lot of Americans are saying it's a good time to go and find a job. And so if you're thinking about looking for a better job, if you're thinking about asking for a raise, if you're thinking about re-entering the labour force, now's as good a time as any.
Yeah. Well, speaking then of what's coming to us in the future, this debt ceiling issue we've known and have feared was going to be acute. I'm very frustrated at the way that it's often perceived as being simply the limit on your credit card, because by not raising the debt limit, it's more akin to saying you are refusing to pay your credit card bill because this is money that has already been spent. But what would not raising the debt ceiling, defaulting on that here in a couple of months, what would that mean?
It could be just about anything. It would be, first of all, unheard of. It would be disreputable, and frankly, a different frame would be immoral to just have Congress wake up one day and say, stop paying your debts. But the thing that I think people really care about is what are the economic consequences. And what we'll see as we get closer and closer to that day is greater and greater nervousness. That's enough to slow the economy. You don't even need to breach the debt ceiling in order to scare the horses enough that you slow the economy a little. But if they stop paying their debts altogether, none of us really knows what sort of financial implosion it could cause, but we don't really want to find out either.
We also, though, have to recognize that we have a lot of people who were sent to Washington on the promise to their constituents that Washington would stop spending beyond its means.
Yeah, well, what they should have done is they should have passed budgets which gave, which lived up to that promise. Here's what the debt ceiling's about. Congress says to Treasury, you have to spend this much money. Congress then says to Treasury, go out and raise this much money. As a result, they're not the same level. Treasury has to borrow this much money, and right now, Congress is saying to Treasury, do all of that and don't borrow money. It's mathematically impossible.
Exactly right. The last thing I wanted to get to, I don't believe you and I have talked too much before about crypto. I thought it was fascinating that Jerome Powell this past week said, I don't want to stifle the crypto market, but he pointed out that the market is basically a mess. Do people like you want the chairman of the Fed worrying about the crypto market, or does he have to? That's reality today.
I think there are two realities. One is a very short run, which is when there are explosions and implosions like FTX. Does that spill over to the rest of the economy? And so far, we've learned not very much. Although one of the things that worries me tremendously is as the industry has grown, it's come to really prey on working class people. And I think that the next, that's why they're advertising during football. It's not because they want to help you, it's because they want to screw you. And I worry that it could have much bigger effects on people there. And looking forward, it is possible that what we mean by money and what money is and the role it plays in our society may change, and the Fed has to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, fascinating. And we will save a much deeper dive on crypto for a future visit for you on Flashpoint. Justin Wolfers, it is always really great to have you on the program. I so appreciate it. Hope we'll see you soon.
Great. I enjoy it.
You bet. Justin Wolfers, the economist at the University of Michigan. We'll take a quick break and then wrap things up for this edition of Flashpoint on Local 4.
It's Allstate Home Leisure's Big Factory Outdoor Furniture Event, our largest outdoor furniture sale of the year. Shop now and save up to 50% on over $10 million of in-stock outdoor furniture and all custom orders. Plus 18 months interest-free financing only at Allstate Home Leisure by Watson's.
For adventure, for climbing, for splashing, for towing, for premium, for capable. The GMC AT4 lineup, premium and capable. That's professional grade from GMC. Or GM employee program participants with a current eligible GMC lease can get this low mileage lease on this 2023 GMC Sierra Elevation for $299 per month.
Hanson's knows that your home is a place of comfort and protection. That's why our durable, energy-efficient, and weather-resistant windows, roofing, siding, and gutters, as well as our tubs and showers, are guaranteed for life. With over 30 years' experience and thousands of five-star reviews, we're your trusted home improvement expert. Enjoy no interest and no payments until 2025, or get 65% off installation.
Call 1-800-HANSON's. Get it done.
At Checkers, I'm in the driver's seat. Give me that $5 meal deal with the Checker Burger. Nah, a mushroom Swiss burger, plus fries, chicken bites, and a drink for just $5. Or why not go big? I want a fried mushroom Buford. Whatever you order, own it at Checkers.
It's one of the most dangerous infractions we can commit as drivers. You know, speeding's bad, but driving without your headlights is so dangerous.
Lights off, danger on. Monday at 5:45 on Local 4 News and streaming on Local 4 Plus.
That's going to do it for us this morning. Thank you so much for being here. I will be off on vacation next week, but you will be in the more than capable hands of Christy McDonald. Hope you have a great week. Meet the Press is coming up next, and we'll see you next time right back here for Flashpoint.